On the other side, ladies and gentlemen, the Supreme Court will continue to hear the demands and all the pleas demanding legislation of same-sex marriages from April 18th. The Apex Court had deemed it fit to refer the matter to a 5-judge bench, saying that the matter was of seminal importance and that any decision on it would have a huge bearing on the society. The centre had opposed the legislation of same-sex marriages in its affidavit in the top court. The government had expressed strong reservations on the issue and said that any interference with the legislative understanding of marriage would cause a complete havoc with the delicate balance of personal laws in the country, and that the court must leave the matter to the legislature to decide. Today, the RSS backed the centre's stand, saying that marriages can only take place between two opposing genders. Dattatreya Hosbole of the RSS said that in Hindu culture and thought, marriage is a sanskar and isn't meant for enjoyment. Listen in.
संघ का भी कहना हमारा marriages can take place between two opposite genders. ये मैंने पहले ही कहा था, I am on record on behalf of संघ. मैरिज का ये देखिए, मैरिज हिंदू जीवन दर्शन में विवाह जो है एक संस्कार है. इट इज नॉट एन इंस्ट्रूमेंट फॉर ओनली एंजॉयमेंट, नाइदर इट इज ए कॉन्ट्रैक्ट. यह एक संस्कार है, षोडश संस्कार. उस संस्कार के अर्थ यह है, टू इंडिविजुअल्स दे गेट मैरिड एंड लिव टुगेदर, लेकिन वो केवल अपने लिए नहीं है, वो एक परिवार बसाते हैं, वो समाज हित में होता है.
You're watching the News Hour at 9, debate number 2 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
And joining the debate tonight, Rahul Ishwar, activist, Abhijit Iyer Mitra, senior fellow at IPCS, also a petitioner in this case. Also joining me tonight, young lawyer Tahira Karanjawala, principal associate of Karanjawala and Company. Tahira Karanjawala, my question to you is, are we getting split as a society between age-old traditions and demands of a new society where, same-sex or LGBTQ rights have been recognized by courts? Why then are we shying away from recognizing marriages? Is it an issue of are societal norms being flouted, or is it an issue of law that needs to be revisited through the legislature?
Thank you very much for having me on the show. So it's my belief that this particular issue is actually an issue of fundamental rights. The Supreme Court of our country has repeatedly held that that the right to marry a person of your own choice is a fundamental right. And it has also held in the recent Navteej Johar judgment, which had decriminalized homosexuality, that all homosexuals have the same human rights, the same fundamental rights and the same constitutional rights as all persons in our country, including heterosexuals. Therefore, I think after these two principles have been enunciated by the Supreme Court, I don't think one can any longer argue that the fundamental right to marry a person of one's choice can be denied to members of the LGBTQ community. I feel that yes, while it causes some amount of controversy and debate at a social level, the fact that this is a fundamental right and therefore it is a right which has been elevated over and above a majoritarian statute is really the point of the matter. These are not rights that have to wait for the legislature, have to wait for public acceptance and have to wait for a political majority to approve them. They are rights that are guaranteed to every person under the Constitution, and asking the Supreme Court to enforce them is also the right of every member of the LGBTQ community.
Well, so Rahul Ishwar, where is the problem? Should we be now held to ransom by an emotional position that we take regarding societal, or should we go by what the Constitution gives as fundamental rights, as Tahira Karanjawala points out? You're on mute.
Yeah.
can hear you now.
Sorry. Yeah, sir. Navika, everyone agrees that there should not be homophobia. That's a given. So
nobody agrees with homophobia and nobody will enhance or promote that. Second, everyone agrees that there should not be any discrimination. And we all supported, even when the debate happened regarding decriminalization, that it should be decriminalized. At the same point of time, the third humble divergence of opinion to homosexual community is there are scientific reservations regarding this. For example, the debate whether there is a gay gene is still a very hotly debated question. There are very many scientists who disagree on the matter and scientific consensus is yet to arrive. And like RSS rightly pointed out, see, marriage, the monogamous heterogeneous marriage is the bedrock of our civilization, and we have a duty to uphold that. See, it's their personal choice if they are going to have a love relationship with a gay couple or a lesbian couple. But according the status of marriage, to such a marriage, such a relation can be problematic, and there can also be legal complication. For example, under what personal law are they going to get married? Under what law are they going to get a divorce? What happens to inheritance? What happens to adoption? Will the child be okay? There are many questions that are there. So everyone respects the homosexual community. Their arguments are respected. No to homophobia, not to discrimination. But as Sangh rightly and softly put it out, we need to have much more deliberation. And one last point is, it is up to the wisdom of the parliament, because we need widespread discussion and consultation or such a thing. Rather than court mandating a rule, it is up to the wish, will and wisdom of the parliament that they deliberate and discuss such issues in depth and come to a consensus. The only appeal to the community is let there be more engagement, let there be more discussions. We will be able to find a middle ground, but there needs to be widespread consultation and discussion before we take such a step.
No, but my question here, Abhijit Iyer Mitra, is that they're okay with, homosexuals living together, but they can't get married. Homosexuals can live together but can't get married, that the parliament will have to decide whether they can get married or not. What kind of an argument is this?
So, Navika, this culture and tradition argument, I find it quite funny because, the problem out here is, Dasharatha, Rama's father, had many wives. Krishna had 1,000 wives. Maharani Gayatri Devi was the 4th wife of Raja Man Singh of Jaipur. Hindus did not have this regulation till the Hindu Marriage Act of 1955 came out. So I wonder where all this tradition and this thing that they're talking about has suddenly come about since 1955 that they're so eager. Right, you can't legislatively remove the right to vote. You can't legislatively remove the right to freedom of expression. You can't legislatively remove the right to life. You can't legislatively remove the right to equality. So, all I'm getting is a whole bunch of jokes passed off as arguments. The biggest joke in all of this is Dattatreya Hosable's argument that marriage is for enjoyment. I'm sorry, sex is sex. Marriage is not about sex. If marriage was about sex, then everybody who's gotten married is essentially a sex fiend and a pervert. Right? So marriage is not about sex. Marriage is about protecting the rights of your kids. Marriage is about protecting your property rights.
Exactly.
Marriage is about an official validation of your companionship, etc., etc. Now, if you don't want to give marriage rights, then come up with something like what France did in 2002 or 3, I forget when, as a legally recognized civil union, which will protect the rights of adopted children, etc., etc., etc. All the points have been raised. But you have to give some form of equality in this, right? So, I'm just sitting here and laughing at all these arguments that different people have made about all of this.
So, Mr. Rahul Ishwar, my question is, if a heterosexual couple can adopt a child, where is the problem in a homosexual couple adopting a child? What are the legal problems there that you're talking about?
I would humbly urge, we cannot equate a heterosexual couple and a homosexual couple. That's the whole premise of the argument. Because heterosexual couple has been the norm, has been, it is entire throughout the entire animal.
My friend, let's talk on logic rather than, the age-old things that we've been taught.
Scientific arguments. That's the reason why homophobia is an absolute no-no. Discrimination is an absolute no-no.
But this is discrimination, is it not, Tahira? Is this not discrimination? Because he says discrimination is a no-no. But at the same time, what he's saying and propounding is discrimination.
Absolutely. I personally think that you can't, on the one hand, give a certain set of rights to heterosexuals. I mean, the right of marriage, apart from being a fundamental right in itself, brings along with it various other rights. There are rights of inheritance, there are rights of maintenance, there are rights of alimony, custody, pension, etc. Marriage is not only a long-term companionship, of course that's the basis of it, but there are various other concomitant rights which you deprive a person of when you do not give them the fundamental right to marry. I also just want to come in here for a minute and say that you cannot define rights by virtue of those who have exercised them in the past. If that was the case, you would never be able to extend rights to any new set of people. I mean, at one point of time, women were not allowed to vote in various countries, and after that they were allowed to vote. You can't, just because a particular community has been deprived of rights in the past is not the reason to perpetuate such injustice. In fact, it's the reason to cure it. Now, as far as the legislative framework is concerned and the worries around that, I actually think that firstly, a fundamental right does not have to wait for the legislature. That's what I said before. And secondly, if at all there are certain...
For us to get out of the mentality, the prudish mentality, the old-fashioned, traditional way of looking at things, and recognize that this is happening in the society. Just as you're saying that we can't be homophobic. So, by denying them marital rights, aren't you being homophobic? Aren't you discriminating? It's a fundamental question.
Just two humble submissions. Even we look at the worldwide stage, we can see people like Pope Francis having taken a very, very well-studied position where Pope Francis goes on record to say, I am nobody to judge homosexuality or homosexual couples. At the same point of time, Catholic Church or Christian churches in general are yet to accord the marital status or bless the couple in the legal way. So it's a complex, multi-layered topic. As the earlier advocate and Abhijit rightly said, there are a lot of associated problems with it or associated questions that arise from it. Rightfully, the issue of adoption comes in, the issue of inheritance comes in, the issue of divorce comes in, issue of under which law comes in. So it's a very deep question that has to be deliberated by Parliament. That's the reason why, respectfully,
Abhijit, are these issues more important than the basic fundamental right?
See,
that's my question.
Very simple. There is no complexity out here. You know, if you go back to desegregation in the United States, or the end of apartheid in South Africa, you would find the white majority in the antebellum South of America and the white majority, the Boers in South Africa, making these exact same arguments. I can in fact play back F.W. Malan and D.W. Clerk, I forget which one is the two last presidents of South Africa, saying this exact same thing. This is complex. It's all interconnected. So while we do not support the fact that Black court and the court will decide on this, I do not think there is a great danger in giving the legislative ability to eradicate fundamental rights or dilute fundamental rights.
Well,
that way you go down the path of majoritarianism.
Let's just wait for what courts have to say. But in the meanwhile, the debate on the issue, without our prudish thought processes, religion, culture holding us back, that's the need of the hour. And this should be an open debate, not just inside Parliament, outside Parliament as well. Thank you very much, Abhijit, Tahira and Rahul Ishwar, for joining me on the Newshour tonight. And thank you, viewers, for staying with me. Good night, be safe, and I'll see you tomorrow on the Newshour at 9.